First off, we're going to chalk our tires. We're going to open the baggage compartment and check our baggage compartment for our chalk. We'll pull our chalk and place the chalk in between our dual tires. Now that our chalk is set, we'll go ahead and start with our air gauge and governor check. We'll now start the vehicle and inspect that the air gauge is working and build the air pressure to governor cutoff, approximately 120 to 140 psi, and identify the cutoff pressure for your vehicle. We're going to be listening for that sneeze sound. We're all set. Now we're going to shut off the engine and turn the key back to the on position. We're going to watch our gauges sweep right to left and get in place. Next, we're going to release our brakes and we're going to fully engage on the foot pedal. Once the air gauge is stabilized, we're going to hold our foot brake for 1 minute. We're going to inspect that our air gauges don't lose more than 4 pounds of pressure within 1 minute. That's when I'll ask our examiner, can you please time me for 1 minute? I'm looking to not lose more than 4 psi within the 1 minute. Now we fan off the air pressure by applying and releasing the foot brake. The low air warning device should activate on or before 55 psi. Continue to fan off the air pressure. The parking brake valve and the trailer brake valve should both pop out between 45 and 20 psi. Once we're all done, we'll exit our vehicle using our 3 points of contact and remove our wheel chalk. We'll re-enter the vehicle using our 3 points of contact and restart the vehicle. We now want to build back our air pressure between 120 and 140 psi so we can get ready for the parking and trailer brake check. Now to test our parking brake. First, we'll release our trailer brake and put the vehicle in drive. We'll go ahead and give the tractor a gentle tug going forward. Once we've completed the tug, we'll go ahead and return the vehicle to the neutral position and reset our trailer brake. Now we'll test our trailer brake. First, we'll release the parking brake, put the vehicle in drive, and we'll give a gentle tug going forward. Once we see that it's holding, we'll go ahead and return the vehicle to neutral and we'll reset our parking brake. Now we're going to perform our service brake test. We're going to push in the parking brake and the trailer brake. We're going to put the vehicle in drive, and we're also going to put our hands underneath the steering wheel, not touching the steering wheel. We're going to roll forward, going no faster than 5 miles per hour, then coming to a stop by applying our foot brake and coming to a complete stop. We would inspect to see that the vehicle does not pull to either side and stops when the service brake is applied. If the vehicle pulls to either side or does not stop well, the brakes may not be working correctly. Now we'll test our light indicators. First, we'll start with the left turn signal. Then we'll move over to the right turn signal. Now we'll demonstrate our four-way flasher. And now we're going to demonstrate how to turn on our low beams. We'll go ahead and turn the switch all the way to the right, turning on all the lights on the vehicle. Now we'll demonstrate our high beam. We can pull it towards us or we can push it down away from us. Demonstrated in the picture, the low beam indicator is blue. Now we're going to switch our vehicle to the on position. We're going to light up our dashboard and look for our indicators. On the very left, we'll have our DEF indicators, and on the very right, we'll have our ABS indicators. Take a look at the picture on the screen. We'll also want to look out of our left mirror, looking to the rear of the trailer, noting that our ABS light turned on and off. Now to inspect for our emergency equipment. We'll inspect for 3 red reflective triangles, or 6 fusees. Next, we'll inspect for a properly charged and secure fire extinguisher. We know it's properly charged because the needle is in the green. And last, we'll inspect for our spare electrical fuses. Next, we'll inspect our windshield and traffic monitoring devices. We'll inspect that the windshield is clean with no obstructions except for an inspection sticker. There can be no damage such as cracks or flaws to the glass. Inspect that mirrors are clean and adjusted properly from the inside when present. Wipers and washers. We would inspect that the wiper arms and blades are secure, not damaged, and demonstrate wipers operate smoothly by turning them on and off. Inspect for windshield washer fluid and demonstrate windshield washers operate correctly by activating the washers. Heater and defroster. We would identify, describe, and demonstrate that the heater and defroster work correctly by operating the controls. Please note on the slide where the indicators have to be at. Next, we would inspect our horns. First our city horn, now our highway horn. Now we're going to perform our lights operation test. We're going to inspect all external lights. First, we're going to inspect that all lights on the front, sides, and rear of the vehicle operate and illuminate when corresponding lights are turning on. That includes the left and right turn signals, the four-way flashers, low beam headlights, high beam headlights, the clearance and marker lights, tail lights, and brake lights. Inspect that brake lights come on when brakes are applied and turn off when the brakes are released. Note, on a combination vehicle, you need only inspect the rear of the trailer. Now we would inspect our lenses. Inspect that light lenses or covers are the proper color, clean, not broken, and not missing. Critical fluid levels. With the engine off, indicate that fluids would be inspected for proper levels, including the coolant system, that it is above the minimum and below the maximum. Next, we'll inspect our oil dipstick. In the next video, we'll demonstrate how to inspect our oil dipstick. We'll pull out our dipstick, wipe it clean, reinsert the dipstick and pull it out once again, and we'll read that the final level is above the minimum and below the maximum. And lastly, we'll inspect our power steering fluid, inspecting that it is above the minimum and below the maximum. Fluid and air leaks. Look for puddles on the ground. Also looking for dripping fluids around the underside of the engine and the transmission. We're also going to inspect all our hoses and air lines for their condition and leaks. Steering system. We're going to inspect all our steering hoses and connections that they are not cracked, worn, or leaking. Next up, we're going to inspect our power steering gearbox, that it's securely mounted and not leaking. Then we'll inspect that all of our steering arms and rods are not cracked, worn, and that the joints and sockets are not loose or worn. Lastly, we'll inspect our steering components have no missing nuts, bolts, or cotter keys. My tires filled to 100 psi. I would check that using a tire gauge. My tire has no cuts or damage. My valve caps are not missing and my valve stems are not broken or damaged. There are no bulges or bumps in the sidewall and my dual tires are all the same diameter. Now I would check my tread depth. My tread depth is a minimum of 4 30-seconds with steer tires and 2 30-seconds on all other tires. I would check that with the tread depth gauge on all major tread grooves containing wear bars. My rims. I would inspect for damaged, cracked, or bent rims. Rims cannot have welding repairs. I would inspect studs and bolt holes to make sure that they are not elongated or out of round. Lug nuts. I would inspect that all lug nuts are present. I would inspect that lug nuts are not loose and that there's no sign of rust trails or shiny threads that may show looseness. I would also inspect that there are no broken studs. Spring mounts, airbags, and shocks. I would inspect for missing, shifted, cracked, or broken leaf springs and inspect that leaf spring mounts are not cracked, broken, or missing any parts. I would also inspect for broken or distorted coil springs and inspect that mounts are not cracked, broken, or have any missing parts. I would also inspect that the air ride suspension is secure and not damaged or leaking. I would also inspect that shock absorbers are secure, not damaged, and not leaking. Lastly, I would inspect that the vehicle is sitting level, front to rear, side to side. Brake lines, hoses, and leaks. Inspect that hoses or lines can supply air and that are not leaking. I would inspect for cracked, worn, frayed hoses or lines. I would also inspect that all hose or line couplings and fittings are secure. Brake contaminants. I would inspect for brake contaminants such as grease, oil, or other items on the brake lining or pads and the brake drum or disc. Lenses and reflectors. I would inspect that light lenses or covers on sides of the vehicle and trailer are the proper color, clean, not broken, or missing. I would also inspect that reflectors on the sides of the vehicle and trailer are the proper color, clean, not broken, or missing. Traffic monitoring devices. Inspect that mirrors are clean and not cracked, and mirror brackets are not bent, and also that they're securely mounted with no missing parts. Battery. Inform the examiner if the batteries are not visible or accessible. Inspect that all batteries are secure if visible. Inspect that all connections are tight and should show no signs of excessive corrosion if visible. Also inspect all electrical system cables and lines that they're secure, not cracked or worn. We would also inspect that the battery box, cover, and door is secure. Fuel tanks and def tank. Inspect that all fuel tanks, including def tanks, are securely mounted. Also that the caps are tight and that there are no leaks coming from the tanks or the lines. Frames. We would inspect for cracks, broken welds, holes, or any other damage to the frame members of the truck and trailer. We would also inspect for cracks, breaks, or holes in the trailer cargo area or floor. Lastly, we would also inspect that the trailer tandem release lever and pins are secure. Air, electrical lines, and connectors. We would inspect that air and electric connectors on the power unit and trailer are seated and sealed, free of any damage, and locked into place. We would also inspect that air hoses and electrical lines are not cut, cracked, chafed, spliced, taped, or worn. We would listen for air leaks. We would also inspect that electrical lines and air lines are not tangled, crimped, pinched, or dragging against any vehicle parts. Note, you must inspect the connections on both the power unit and the trailer to receive credit. Fifth wheel skid plate. We would inspect that the fifth wheel skid plate is securely mounted to the vehicle by the fifth wheel platform. We would inspect for cracks, breaks, or excessive wear. We would also inspect for proper lubrication. Kingpin, apron, and gap. We would inspect that the kingpin is in place and not bent, damaged, or worn. We would inspect that the visible part of the apron is not bent, cracked, or broken. We would also inspect that the trailer is lying flat on the fifth wheel skid plate and that there is no space between the apron and the fifth wheel, no gap. We would also inspect for proper lubrication. Locking and safety devices. We would look into the fifth wheel gap and inspect that locking jaws or lever are fully secured around the kingpin and inspect for play between the kingpin and the locking jaws. We would inspect that the release arm is in the engaged position and is locked into place. We would also inspect the fifth wheel sliding locking pins for damage and that the pins are fully engaged. Landing gear. We would inspect that the landing gear is fully raised, has no missing parts, the crank handle is secure, and the support frame and landing pads are not damaged. We would inspect that the fifth wheel is positioned properly so that the tractor frame will clear the landing gear during turns. Reflective tape. We would inspect that the reflector tape on the sides and rear of the trailer are present and affixed securely to the vehicle. Lenses and reflectors. We would inspect that light lenses or covers are proper color, clean, not broken, and not missing. We would also inspect that reflectors are the proper color, clean, not broken, and not missing. Note, on a combination vehicle, you need only to inspect the rear of the trailer. Railroad saying, I am approaching the railroad track. I am in the right lane, staying at a safe, consistent speed. I am going to look to ensure that there is enough room for my truck and trailer to completely cross the tracks. I am going to open my windows, listen for horns, bells, and whistles. I am going to look for flashing lights and railroad arms, all of which would indicate that a train is coming. As I approach, I am going to look left, right, left to visually ensure no train is coming. As I cross, I will look left, right, left. After I cross, I will check my mirrors left, right, left to ensure my truck and trailer have completely crossed the tracks. Should I have to stop for any reason, I will turn on my four-way flashers. Rules for emergency roadside stops. For a roadside emergency stop, turn on your right signal and pull off of the road completely. Make sure the surface will hold the vehicle. Come to a safe stop on the side of the road, set your brakes, and turn on your four-way flashers. When it is safe to do so, get out and deploy your 3 reflective triangles if stopped for more than 10 minutes. Once you're ready to re-enter the highway, turn your flashers off and turn on your left turn signal to return to the highway.